Greetings, Nick with Sweetwater here, and in today's video we're going to be learning all of the riffs in the timeless AC/DC classic T.N.T. Psych! I do the rest of the solo in the second video. To help you learn these classic riffs, we're putting tab and chord windows on the screen too. Nice. Also, as you can see, yep, I look ridiculous, thanks to your, I was hoping you were going to do the lesson dressed like Angus Young and using the Tony Monkey SG comments on my Back in Black album video. I'm doing exactly that in this one. That said, I draw the line at wearing shorts for this. I would hate to subject anybody to look at my ugly knees for a whole video. The thumbnail picture is quite enough. I borrowed the tie, the cap, and jacket from an AC/DC loving student who's way smaller than me. So this jacket is really tight and incredibly uncomfortable, which just adds to the stupidity. So, if my playing is even sloppy than usual, it's your fault, my friend, it's your fault. T.N.T. is 3 minutes and 32 seconds of pure, unadulterated AC/DC 3-chord magic. T.N.T. first saw the light of day in Australia in 1975 when it appeared on AC/DC's album of the exact same name. This bad boy right here. This said, the rest of the world didn't hear it until a whole year later when the band's debut international album High Voltage was released. This one right here, and it's a gem! I was lucky enough to see the band play live in 1977 in England. Yep, I'm old. They were amazing, and the ticket price was the English equivalent of a mere $2.13. Anyway, as a result of that, T.N.T. was one of the first songs I was actually able to play rhythm to successfully from start through finish in my fledgling years as a guitar player. Well, kind of from start to finish, but I felt good about it. That said, this song is a fun one to play for even the most advanced rock players on this planet, in my humble opinion. With the exception of its slightly crazy but nevertheless cool chromatic climbing climax, T.N.T. is perhaps the ultimate example of a perfectly crafted, catchy 3-chord rock song. It's basically just two riffs, my friend, the verse riff and the chorus riff. And both of these riffs use three of the first power chords we all master, namely open E5, open G5, and open A5. These ones right here. And both riffs also use single G notes at the 3rd fret of the low E string. This one right here. In fact, as you may have already noticed, for the most part you can play both riffs using just two fingers, namely your pointer and middle digits. That's really good, isn't it? So, enough of my blabber, let's learn the sucker, shall we? Before we start though, just so you're aware, the tuning used on the original recording of T.N.T. is slightly flat. In fact, it kind of sits somewhere between regular tuning and a half step down. For the sake of convenience though, we're going to learn it in standard tuning. As just mentioned, the three power chords used in the main body of the song, namely the verse and chorus, are open E5, open A5, and open G5. Now, if you're not quite sure how to finger this trio of chords while successfully preventing unwanted strings and notes from ringing out, fret not, because all three are covered in my Back in Black lesson. Links to the exact chapters for all three chords are in the comments below. And if you need to take this slight detour, don't worry, I'll wait right here for you until you've done the deed. Assuming you've mastered this trio of open power chords, let's learn the verse riff, shall we? This one right here. First though, I should also quickly point out this. T.N.T. starts with an open E5 power chord that's allowed to ring for 4 bars, namely this, 1, 2, 3, 4. Got it? Good. Let's get to that main verse riff, shall we? The first riff starts with an E5 power chord followed by a G5, just like this. And, as you've hopefully heard, you don't let either of them ring either. You don't want this. No sir, you want this. In order to create these desired holes of silence, you have to use both of your hands in synchrony to stop the strings from ringing. Once again, if you don't know how to do this, don't worry, it's easy. It must be. I can do it. And as it just so happens, luckily enough, I covered this two-handed string muting technique in the aforementioned Back in Black lesson. Once again, a link to the exact chapter is in the text below. Having played these two chords, with the desired holes of silence after each one of course, the second part of the verse riff is this. As you can hopefully see and hear, you start the second half of this riff with an open A5 power chord, followed by a very lightly palm-muted G note at the 3rd fret on the low E string, played with your middle finger. To achieve the desired palm-muting effect on the single G note, you do the following. You take the fleshy part of the heel of your picking hand and rest it lightly on the low E string, right where it crosses the bridge. Namely, you take this part of your picking hand and rest it right here. The exact positioning of the heel of your palm is obviously pretty important. If you're too far back, you obviously won't be palm muting the string at all. Duh! And if your palm is too far forward, all you'll hear is a nondescript thunk, just like this. The desired effect is this. The note is lightly palm muted, but you can still definitely hear that it's a G. What a concept. And remember, the key word here is lightly. We're not trying to do a Metallica or Pantera style heavy chug style mute here. Got it? Cool. Now, a lot of T.N.T transcriptions as lessons I've seen don't mention this mute at all, but I definitely hear it. It's subtle, my friend, but it's there in my humble opinion. That said, don't take my word for it. Take a listen and let your ears decide. To lightly mute or not lightly mute is the question. Anyway, this done, I then hit the A5 power chord once again, followed by another G note on the low E string, like this. And again, just a little bit slower. As you just saw and heard, this time I do a very slight blues bend on that G note. So if we put these three little chunks together, we've got the whole enchilada, namely the verse riff. At this point, let's quickly discuss the second chord in this riff, namely the open G5. I invariably fret it using my middle finger and pinky like this. Middle finger, pinky. That said, the way this chord is played in this riff, you don't actually hit the B or high E string notes. So if you want, you could just get away with using the middle finger by itself, just like this. Providing, of course, you don't inadvertently hit the B or high E strings. For this reason, I invariably bring my pinky into action, barring the two high strings at the 3rd fret, just as a safety net. That way, if I do inadvertently hit them, no harm, no foul. You can obviously do this using your pinky to fret the high E string and your ring finger to fret the B as well, just like this. Your call, my friend, your call. Or just go for the one finger thing and hope you don't hit B and high E. Incidentally, if you listen to the recorded version very carefully, you'll often hear some percussive chucks on the guitar like this. This is something the late great Malcolm Young did a lot, and I really like it. In my humble opinion, it adds a cool rhythmical vibe and momentum to a riff. To do one of these chucks, you merely mute the strings by resting 2 or more of your fretboard fingers on them and then pick said strings, just like this. The reason you use more than one finger to do this muting? To avoid those pesky unwanted natural harmonics. That's why we don't want this. The suckers are everywhere, and by using 2 or more fingers, we get rid of them. And talking of that much missed master of rhythm guitar, Mr. Malcolm Young, If you go on the YouTubes, you can find an isolated track of him playing T.N.T. live at Donington, England. And you can hear him playing the riff kind of like this, but much, much better. And as you could hear, hopefully even in my dodgy rendition, Malcolm does 2 chucks in between the E5 and G5, and he's also effectively ending the riff with an open E5, and he sometimes also hits an open G5 instead of a single note G as well. Don't listen to me though, listen to him. It's great stuff that, in my opinion, just adds rhythm and drive to this already great riff without taking anything away from it. Like I said, give him a listen and learn from a true master of rhythm and blues. Anyways, slight diversion over. You play this riff 4 times before the first verse and 2 times before the second verse. And when the singing starts for each verse, you play it 8 more times. That said, the 8th and final time you play it in each verse, you only actually play the first 3 chords of the riff, letting the A5 ring for 2 bars before the chorus riff kicks in. Here's what that final version of the riff in each verse sounds like. Oi! Oi! Sorry, I couldn't resist that. I blame the costume, my friend, for that piece of nonsense, and it's all your fault, like I said earlier. Anyway, this leads us nicely into the chorus riff, which is quite literally simply brilliant. As you've already heard several times during this video, and you know already, the chorus riff is simply this. Yup, an open A5 power chord, followed by a single G note on the low E string with a subtle blues bend, into an open E5 chord that you don't let ring, just like this once again. This simple but infectious A5 G note E5 riff was repeated 4 times, and then after the last of the 4, you then play a G5 power chord followed by an A5 power chord, and that one is allowed to ring for a count of 8, which is 2 bars, before the verse riff kicks in again. Here's the whole chorus back into the verse riff, just so you can hear what I'm talking about here. And as I'm sure you're aware, before the second verse, while Malcolm is letting that A5 power chord ring, Angus does a really cool whole step bend at the second fret of the G string, just like this. This bend will be covered in detail in the T.N.T. solo video I discussed earlier. Remember, we're just doing the rhythm parts in this one. After the second chorus of the song, Angus's solo is played over the verse riff, which is then followed by a double chorus. Then after that, at exactly the 3-minute mark, the chromatic climb that ends in a climatic frenzy begins. This means, my friend, that just by knowing the 2 riffs we've just learnt, and also the simple way each verse and chorus ends, you can play the entire first 3 minutes of this 3-minute, 32-second long AC/DC epic. Nice. So now all we have to do is learn the chord sequence played in the dramatic chromatic climax of T.N.T. Or perhaps I should say, explosive finish. Sorry, that was just awful. A dreadful pun. I apologise. Said chromatic climb is made up of a total of no fewer than 16 root 5 power chords, but please don't let that number scare you. It's in fact easy to play and remember. Very easy actually. We start with the open E5 power chord, this one right here. And then we quite literally climb up the neck 1 fret at a time until we reach the 15th fret, just like this. For this part, I'm merely hitting the low E and A strings together while moving our old friend, the movable power chord shape, using just 2 fingers up the neck. Here it is on the screen. I personally prefer to fret this shape with my index and pinky like this. But you might prefer to use your 3rd finger instead of your pinky like this. Or with with your index, ring and pinky, just like this. As always, go with whichever one feels best to you. Preferred fingering chosen, here's the timing of this chromatic 1 fret at a time ascent of the neck. The first 4 chords are each held for 1 bar, which is a count of 4. I'm going to do this with my guitar turned down so you hear it acoustically, so you can hear the count. Here we go! A 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Our next 4 power chords in our sequence are at the 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th frets respectively, like this. Now each one of these is held for just half a bar, or 2 beats, as there are 4 beats in each bar. So if I'm counting the next 2 bars like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, I hit the chords on counts 1 and 3 of each 4 count, just like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. This means that so far we've got this, and once again I'm going to play it with the guitar turned down so you can hear the count and the guitar. Make sense? A 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So, we're halfway there. 8 power chords down, 8 power chords to go. And the next 8 of our 1 fret at a time chromatic climb change on every single beat. So starting at the C5 power chord at the 8th fret, we do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Here it is first played slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And a little bit quicker. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That means if we put all of this together, we have the following. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm not doing it again because I'm out of breath, darn it, I'm out of breath. So in conclusion, this chromatic climb starts with the open E5 power chord and finishes with the G5 power chord all the way up the neck at the 15th fret, moving 1 fret at a time on the low E string, which is what chromatic means. And incidentally, while Malcolm is playing the chromatic chord climb, Angus is doing a very cool complementary unison bend chromatic climb as well. And that's all you're getting of that, because like I said before, it'll be in the next video, the one that has the solo. The song then climaxes with some pretty manical yet semi-controlled chaos from the whole band before ending on an E5 chord. Now, in my humble opinion, this would be almost impossible to duplicate exactly, even for AC/DC, so my advice is simply this. Listen to the album version a few times, and also what Malcolm does at Donington, get the vibe, and then have at it your way. Just make sure you hit an E5 power chord at the very end. And there you have it, my friend, all the rhythm parts of AC/DC's seminal classic T.N.T. As I've said before in other videos, while knowing the key riffs of a song you love is super cool, being able to play along to the whole song from start through finish is even cooler in my humble opinion. Incidentally, in addition to this costume, which I know looks absolutely ridiculous, and I feel like a fool, but hey, what's new? For this video, I used the following equipment. This wonderful Epiphone Tony Iommi signature Monkey SG, a Wampler Plexi drive for my dirty sound, which was splendid in my opinion, and finally into the clean channel of the orange 50-watt Rockaverb Mark III Neo 2x12 combo, because that channel is an excellent pedal platform in my humble opinion. That all stated, I'm out. See you! Thank you so very much for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment nicely, especially about the costume because it's your fault, and also subscribe. Click here for more videos like this, and go to sweetwater.com for all your music instrument and pro audio needs. Goodbye, Governor. Goodbye.